Hey there, everybody. It's your friend Jor-Li, the ever-loving Levite Lost, coming at you once again. This time I want to talk about Will Eisner's The Spirit. I have these two books here. One I own, one I got from the library. And this is less a review of just the books themselves, but really what The Spirit is. If you don't know, Spirit was a weekly comic strip that would show up in Sunday newspapers. It came out week after week. And each story was about 8 pages long. Written and artwork done by Will Eisner himself. He did pretty much all of it except for a brief period during World War II. And then right after he came back and started up doing it all again himself. Just say I really like these stories. I read them when I was a kid. I was kind of just turned off by how weird some of them could get. But then when I got older, I knew more about film noir and the influences that came to influence this comic book. I kind of appreciated it more, you might say. And Will Eisner is, if you don't know, he's the father of the entire comic book industry as it exists. Just visual storytelling, all of it. He's a real genius, I think, when it comes to all this, because he's got a very clear style and all that. Here's something I love. I don't know when it started, but pretty much every single Spirit comic started with this big wide splash page. And they always look great. They were always just something really fantastic. Something like this, made them look like postage stamps. There's something really creative that Will Eisner could sink his teeth into. They were always fantastic. I really can't say too much about this, or say enough, because Will Eisner was just really good at visual storytelling, really condensed, making sure you move the plot along. I think that's something a lot of comic book writers could learn today. I don't want to point fingers or take shots at anyone, but just in general. Because you got 8 pages to tell a story, and he did it week after week after week, and he was brilliant at it. Establishing all things, things like tone and plots and mystery and all that. Oh God, these splash pages are beautiful. Because look at how dense these panels are. There's a lot of panels crammed in here. And there's one. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I'm just now remembering. Oh, it was great. If I can find it, it was one panel, but it was a whole house. It was a cutaway of a house where someone had been murdered. And each individual room was a panel where something was happening. I can't find it. I wish I thought to show it to you before. But anyways, maybe you want to know, maybe you haven't heard of The Spirit. Let me introduce to you. There's this detective named Denny Colt who goes on the trail of a man called the Claw, or the Scorpion. It's generic villain A, super scientist. That's not really important. What happens is he gets doused with chemicals that gives him the appearance of being dead for a short while. They actually think he's dead and they bury him. And then a few hours later he rises up out of his grave and becomes the Spirit. Because he believes he can get more done, sort of just like a masked vigilante, than he could as a normal man with a name and contacts and people that villains could come after and hurt. And it's just a complicated way to get a man in a mask, pretty much. But really, after that, Denny Colt's civilian identity never really comes up much at all. Like, only in a very few handful of stories does it ever factor in that he was somebody before he was the Spirit. And so he just goes around solving mysteries, having adventures, all that sort of thing. It's really good pulp action, hero, film noir sort of stuff. It's hard to describe. You just got to read it, because each comic is something similar but something different. It's got that Will Eisner style to it, but he's always doing something new. Like, there's one story in here about a guy who can fly, and a toy machine gun that really wants to be a real machine gun. That one was kind of weird reading for the first time, but now it's like, it's really good. Just go read it. Find something, The Spirit, and read it. Even if it's the Dynamite comics, they're good. They're not the same as this. They're good. Try to find these 8 pagers. This Will Eisner stuff. I can't say enough about it. It's just really, really good. Please go read it. That's all I gotta say about that. So I'll talk to you next time. here on Levi Lost.